my fellow wizards. Oh boy, there are some pretty big changes to talk about this week, so let's hop right on in. First, many of you may be disappointed to see that the free first arc promotion that ran from December 2022 to January 2023 has finally ended. This was where all the players gained access to the first 5 worlds in the game, which included Wizard City, Krakatopia, Marleybone, Mushu, and Dragonspire for free, which is the first time this has ever happened. But now, unfortunately, it looks like you're gonna have to fork over some money for a membership or buy the zones with crowns if you want to keep playing, so that's a bit of a bummer. Previously, kingsisle ran some other promotions for Free Wizard City or Free Wizard City in Krakatopia during special occasions, but this was the first time that they let you have access to the entire first arc and for multiple months, extending the initial December 2022 promotion into the full month of January 2023, and it was a huge deal to the player base since many of us are hoping that this may lead to the decision to keep the first arc free permanently. So far, there's no sign of the developers extending the promotion into February. However, it's not all bad news because it seems like in a future KI livestream, they will be discussing the results of this promotion and maybe whether or not it's viable to switch to a permanent free first arc down the line.
How positive of an impact was the first arc free promotion?
I think Joel would love to talk about that on a future KI Live.
Let's keep our fingers crossed that it's led to a big influx of new players. I think it's likely the developers are probably weighing the lost revenue from people not needing to buy zones or pay membership immediately to access the first arc versus the potential revenue gain from a bunch of new players who play through the first arc, get invested in the game, and then either pay to continue the story or buy from the crown shop in the meantime, so I guess we'll just have to see if the numbers work in our favor. There's also the question of if or how Crowns-only members who bought First Arc zones would be compensated if the First Arc became free to everyone, although I think it's unlikely they would be refunded all their crowns, so you might want to hold off on buying zones in the First Arc for a little while until we get an official announcement one way or another. I, for one, am really hoping they finally just bite the bullet and make the first arc permanently free because I truly think it's what Wiz needs to continue to thrive. Wizard101 relies in huge part on the nostalgia of players who discovered the game as a kid and remained loyal or returned to the game in adulthood, but that just can't continue forever. We need new players to keep the game going long term, and currently the paywall in Wizard City feels like it comes way too early for people to get a true taste of what the game has to offer. So letting new players have access permanently to even the first few worlds would be a great way to build interest in the game and make people want to stay and buy membership or crowns down the line. At this point, there are 19 worlds in Wiz, so I think it's high time to let the first 5 worlds be free. Next, I want to talk about the recent patch which changed a bunch of gear-related stuff as well as revealed this monstrosity.
Fetch me their souls!
Amongst other things, the patch changed how the Novus gear is farmed and crafted, and some stats on several different gear sets. Earlier in January, the developers stated they would be adjusting the Novus drops and pity system, while also making changes to the gear at several different level brackets, and as of today, those changes have finally gone through, with some pretty interesting differences. So for those of you out of the loop, a bunch of different gear sets were tweaked in this patch. Too many to go over individually in this video, but some of the gear sets confirmed to have been changed include Novus, Raid gear, World Pack gear, Cerberus gear, the Spiral Villain gear, Highland gear, and the Professor's gear. It also looks like top tier Novus gear is now craftable using any Masterpiece school gear rather than just your own schools like it was before the update. This follows the same pattern as gear like Dragoon and creates a sort of pity system where if you farm enough, you'll eventually get what you need to craft the best gear, so that's a pretty positive change since it should help cut down on the grinding and RNG at least a little bit. However, there are some downsides because the pixel reagent cost for the crafted gear has more than tripled in some cases, while the polygon cost has been cut by more than half, and some recipes require 9 of the previous tier gear to craft the best tier gear, so there will still definitely be some grinding involved since you still need a lot of pieces to craft the final gear, and 9 is kind of a lot to get. Now, some people are claiming that drop rates for the lower tier gear have gone up, so it shouldn't take too long to get the pieces you need, but others are having trouble getting drops, so it's unclear yet if the devs alter the loot tables or, it's just down to people's personal luck. Meanwhile, focusing in on stat changes, the main stat on different gear sets that has been tweaked is Shadow Pip rating, with regular Power Pip chance replacing it in many cases. This means that you may be able to free up a triangle slot for something other than Pip chance, or like swap in a different shape of deck jewel for more pierce or another stat instead of having to use a triangle jewel deck like many people have to. Note that another change in the update was that archmastery jewels have been added to the Novus jewel vendor, so that may be another jewel you could swap in place of Power Pip Chance. Bratbeard stated on Twitter in response to questions about the change that the gear template system was prioritizing shadow rating over Power Pip Chance previously, so they've now flipped them to give struggling schools more options for Power Pip Chance. He also added that because the shadow rating is comparative to the opponent, the impact there should be minimal, and that DPP, or damage per pip, is unchanged. I know before the update went live, many people, including myself, were kind of concerned about gear like the level 100 Malister robes being affected, as especially for some schools like Storm, they have been a staple for almost 60 levels, but it looks like they have been unaffected, at least for now, so no need to sharpen your pitchforks yet.
I'll always love you.
It remains to be seen if they'll tweak other gear in the future or if we'll get the permanent free first arc we've been wanting, but the patch is definitely a step in the right direction, so farming isn't such an unending chore anymore, although obviously having to get 9 lower tier gear pieces to craft the best gear is still kind of a lot, and it's not totally clear if the drop rate for gear has been boosted or not. I do really like having Power Pip Chance on a bunch of the gear that didn't have it before, because that really frees up jewel slots for other important stats, although we will have to see if this does negatively affect Shadow Pip generation in a way that is undesirable for people. Let me know your thoughts about all this in the comments below. Do you think the gear changes and pity system are a good move by the developers, or is it still not good enough? And do you think they'll ever make the first arc permanently free? As always, I hope to see you out there in the spiral, and happy questing.